Aloha Awinala. I'm Kaui Lucas, and we are here this Friday. Willkommen zur Sendung Hawaii is my mainland. Live Übertragung von Think Tech Hawaii. You may have wondered what the little German bit is. I have a very special guest today, someone I've known for 36 years. That's some kind of an award. Ralf is from Germany, and we met, long story short, through an exchange, a student exchange when we were in high school. And since he's visiting, I decided to put him to work. So Ralf is here. He's originally trained as an attorney and was a businessman for a while, but he came to see the light. Ralf Loos, and I share a passion for looking at life in a simpler way and living on the land. He's not off the grid like I am, but he's got a really nice garden and a beautiful 800-year-old farmhouse that he and his sweetheart have been renovating over the last 6 years. So Ralf, that's a big project. That's been a big project for you. And what happened that you decided to leave behind the world of publishing and take on the land life?
Well, Christiane, first of all, thank you very much for this invitation. And prior to coming to Hawaii, I was guessing that this will be a relaxed holiday here until you told me about this very interesting show. And well, I came to the conclusion I'm not here for pleasure. Well, but well, I try to enjoy as much as I can. In fact, I do so. And well, it's a long story. It didn't come about very quickly. And in regards to the farm, I studied law. I could have signed up to become a lawyer. I decided not to. I was working at a dental company for a couple of years, which this very company made me go to the United States. I had the great and fantastic opportunity to live and work in the United States for 3 years. And I was unfortunately forced to move back to Germany. Then I worked in France for a while. And then, as you already mentioned it, I also had the great privilege to work as a publisher for an American publishing house in the United Kingdom. Yeah, I know it sounds a little bit twisted, everything, but
that's okay. They'll get used to it. That's just the way it is with you.
And then while I was still publisher in England, I kept visiting my hometown in central Franconia. And to explain this a little bit further, Franconia is geographically the northern part of Bavaria. People are certainly familiar with Nuremberg and Würzburg. These are the two major cities in Franconia. However, my hometown is a little bit south of Nuremberg. It's a good hour drive. And I kept, even though I lived in different countries, I kept visiting my hometown for mostly a sole purpose. There's every 2 years a Bach festival close by. And during one of my trips back to Germany, I had a day off and cycled around the countryside and discovered an old farm in a very, very sad state. And this is how the love began.
Well, evidently, you're not the only one in Germany, Ralf, who has this longing to be back on the land, to be in an agricultural community. Your amazingly sweet, bucolic community. Do we dare say the name? I'm afraid of ruining it by saying the name. Did we already say the name?
No.
No? Okay, we won't say the name. Otherwise, it'll end up being like the Makapu Trail that we went up the other day and paved. But this darling little town has 200 and how many?
No, 175.
175. Okay. And how many cows?
Well, I can't give you an exact figure. However, what I can tell you, our neighbor has 120 cows, and well, there are a couple of more farmers. We have a few pig farms, and then there's also regular agriculture. So it's not only livestock, it's also normal farming.
Normal farming being grains.
Grains,
and
corn. Corn has become a very important plant to grow because we have these biogas facilities. It's strongly disputed because it has changed agriculture, and it's strongly subsidized, subsidized by the state in order to generate green electricity. But this is, as I
That's
said,
not why people are moving out of the
No.
cities, and or maybe they're not moving out of the cities, but they want to move out of the cities.
Well, yes and no, Christian. You're totally right. There is this very strong longing by people not only in Germany, but let's confine ourselves to Germany. There's a strong longing for people to go in some way back to the roots, to experience country life. They long for the beauty of a pristine countryside.
You gave me an amazing example about a magazine. What was that?
It's called Landlust. And in fact, you can translate the term lust one-to-one into English. It's the longing for land, for the country. Well, I would subtitle it Lust for Pristine Country Life. And this periodical has, well, it came on the market in 2005. And its circulation is now at around 1 million. It outnumbers the maybe most famous and well-known German publication, The Spiegel.
Wow.
The Spiegel's circulation is about 800,000. So it's another 20% more. And it's not only this magazine, there are many copies of it. There's, for example, this magazine, Land Love.
Oh.
And when you go to a German bookstore, you will be stunned how many magazines there are that cover this kind of topic. And they're still expanding. It's not that they have reached a culmination or a saturation point. Well, they recently came up with land house or country style house. Or then there's even the land pharmacy magazine. So where you grow certain plants that you could use as a remedy.
Oh, I think we need one of those here. And that would be great for Heike, your sweetheart, because she's a naturopath. Well,
oh, and I could get back into publishing.
Okay, well, we don't want to kill any more trees, though, right?
No, absolutely not. No.
So you've done some kind of cool, sustainable things. Besides renovating an 800-year-old structure instead of knocking it down, you are very good at going through and reusing materials. And we could maybe see a couple of the other pictures of Ralph's Franconian hideaway. We had a great time this summer. There was I took this from the top of a ladder while I was picking cherries. I was just so overwhelmed by how beautiful everything is and the smell of the earth and all of this herbs and flowers and fruit and everything happening there. You can see your little vineyard. How's the vineyard doing? Those little
Well,
rows there.
It's still in the growing process. Christian, but I need to inquire a little bit about your cherry picking. Did I give you permission to do it? Well, we address this after the show, I suggest. Okay. If possible,
I didn't stop with the cherries, as we see. I picked all of those.
Okay, well, thank you for providing me this evidence. Yeah.
Ralph and I do like to give each other a hard time, so
Yeah.
it's
But normally we don't do it in public.
So so you're actually doing it. You've got chickens and you've beautiful produce in the summer, and you're heating your house with wood chips and or
only
pellets.
in winter. Only in winter and pellets. In the summer, well, we have set up some kind of water device on one of the roofs, and during the summer, in regards to hot water, we are totally self-sufficient. This is a wonderful thing. Whenever I take a bath or a shower, I know no fossil fuels were needed to get my water hot.
So how do you do that?
It's a device that it measures about. Now I have to convert it into feet.
Don't get too German on me.
Okay.
It's
So no
a word.
measurements. It's a device that you put on the roof, and it's full with copper water and copper pipes that are filled with water, and then they just heat up the water. The water is stored in about a 1,000 gallon tank, and so and this hot water in the tank will heat up the water that we use to wash our hands, and so forth. And as per the garden, it's about a 1.5 acre garden, and we are still in the process of developing it. The renovation of the house, the barn, the piggery, were incredibly time-consuming. We bought it in 2008, and we were finally able to move in summer 2014.
Okay, so we now know that you live in this darling bucolic setting in the middle of Germany-ish. Okay, closer to the south, but in the north of the south.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And west of the east and east of the west, more or less. And I'm allowed to say stuff about Germans because I have German ancestors too. So I just want to make that clear. I don't have anything. I love Germany, and when I say things like "don't get too German on me," you know how I mean it.
After 36 years, I got used to it, Christian.
Having been raised by a half Prussian myself, we understand what it means to get too German. So you have a little tiny town, but Germany itself, now that it's reunified, is about the size of Montana, right?
Montana or half Texas. Yes.
Or half of Texas.
Yes.
And so that is
You want to have figures now?
Yeah. Why not?
So you changed your mind in regards to figures?
No. Yes. Well, because I asked for the figures.
Okay. Well,
and I know that you have them.
It's in fact, I only have the population of Montana, but Texas is about 270 million square miles.
So I think it was about a million square miles. So anyway, the point was, Germany is the size of Montana.
Mm-hmm.
And Montana has 1 million people.
Whereas we have 80 million.
80 million people. Think
Mm-hmm.
about that. 80 million people in a country the size of Montana. So maybe there's a little bit of pressure when you suddenly add another million.
Well, yes, there is.
Okay. Let's talk about that when we come back in a minute, Ralph.
Okay, we will.
Aloha, I'm Rachel Jurgen with Aging with Grace. Please join us every Tuesday on thinktech.com.
Hello, I'm Stephen Katz, and I'm the host of Shrink Wrap, which comes to you live every Tuesday at 3 p.m. on thinktechhawaii.com, and then it's repeated again whenever you want if you go to the website. On our show, we will be talking to all different kinds of therapists, psychologists, psychoanalysts, psychiatrists, people who talk about the mind, the brain, and about different ways to find happiness. I myself am a marriage and family therapist in practice here in Hawaii, and I hope you will join us because I've got a lot to learn, you've got a lot to learn, and it's a great ride. Thanks a lot. See you soon.
Welcome back to Hawaii is my mainland. I'm Kaui Lucas, and today I have my dear friend Ralf Loos from Mittelfranken, Germany. And when I was there this summer, things were heating up, but things hadn't gotten quite hot yet on the radar of refugees. And Ralf and I love to discuss politics. And we're usually on opposite sides, which makes it interesting. But it's really valuable for me because I know that I can vet my ideas and my beliefs in a safe way and learn something. And he is thoughtful and well-read, and so something really comes about it. And it's that ability to exchange ideas and keep things open that is really why Ralf is here today, because my knee-jerk reaction is usually more to the left. And when one hears about immigrants these days, there's a lot of conflicting feelings that come up. And it wasn't until I started really talking about hearing from Ralf, you know, what the experience was like, that I thought, wow, there's more to this than just we have to take them all in because they're in need. So before we get too heavy, to give an example, there's a tweet that came across my screen a couple of months ago, and I had to send it to Ralf right away. So at that point, you know, I was still pretty much holding the line on, okay, this is it's really important to be compassionate. And then I started hearing, when Ralf and I were talking, about what their direct experience was like in Germany over the last couple of months. So would you talk about that, Ralf?
Yeah, well, it's, as you correctly said, things started to become quite hot after you left and flew back to Hawaii. And the influx of immigrants increased from day to day. The numbers went up to 10,000, 12,000 immigrants per day. So, and when you looked at the photos and videos that were broadcasted, it looked like an exodus. And those people who were leaving their home countries or whatever country they came from, they were marching through Europe and past many different countries until they were in Germany. Not only Germany, but mostly Germany. And then, our Chancellor Merkel, she suddenly, it came to almost everyone's surprise, she said, well, we are going to open our borders.
Well, wait, the borders weren't actually closed, were they?
Yes and no. Well, it's a complicated topic. We have the Schengen Agreement. And the Schengen Agreement stipulates that we have no borders within Europe, but we have one external border. So for example, a refugee, I'm not talking about asylum seekers, but let's take the general term refugee. So a refugee who wants to get into Europe for whatever reason. He has to cross the Schengen border, for example, at Greece. And then in Greece, they normally are obliged to to submit their papers, their documentation that they have, if they have them. And then in Greece, they will take their fingerprints and whatever is needed to allow them to move on to other countries within the Schengen Agreement area. And however, as we know, Greece is economically in a terrible situation.
Yeah, that was dominating the news when I was there. Every day it was what's happening with Greece.
Yeah.
So.
Greece is still, at least for those who are interested in finances, it's still on the radar. However, the refugee crisis is on the radar of everyone. And as Greece is in some kind of desolate state, their border controls were just not able to manage it. There were too many coming in. And
so they didn't check passports.
They
they didn't ask for papers.
No.
So people just streamed through Greece.
Yeah.
And then once
they
in Greece, the rest of the EU was an open door.
They did not only came in through Greece, they also came over the Mediterranean with all kinds of vessels.
Yes, we've seen those heart-wrenching
pictures. Yeah. So Greece is one area where they were able to migrate through, and then they literally walked. Well, not only walked, but sometimes they took buses. Sometimes they went on trains. And so they migrated further north until they reached Germany. Many went to France. Another a country that they liked to go to is Sweden. So there was chaos. There's no other way to put it. Everything was out of control.
So people are just walking along the Autobahn?
They were walking along the Autobahn. Yes,
that is amazing. That is so un-German.
It's
shocking.
Very un-German. It shows how unprepared our politicians were. They were just flabbergasted by the sheer numbers of people who were streaming into our country.
Was there any sense that they knew how many were going to come?
No, absolutely not. And our government has repeatedly proven how ill-prepared they were. While you were in Germany, our Secretary of Internal Affairs, he said, we estimate to have about 400,000 immigrants in 2015. This estimate was off by more than 600,000, and this already shows there was no kind of intelligence, there was no preparedness, and consequently, all state authorities and police, of course, the Red Cross, all these institutions, they were equally ill-prepared for this influx of people.
So now there's a huge population that's already there. Are they still coming?
Oh yes, yeah.
Okay. So has anything gotten better about deciding who goes where? Oh, we have. Let's talk about this for a minute. So things have heated up, and this is a recent Spiegel article, and very all of a sudden she may be on the cover of Time magazine, but she's not getting a warm, fuzzy welcome at home right now.
No, no. Well, Merkel, she enjoyed a very high popularity amongst Germans, but this is very, very much waning, and it's not only her popularity amongst Germans is waning, as well as amongst European politicians, because with the open door policy that she declared. Well, it's not only that Germany has to cope with this large number of people, Austria as well, Greece, of course, too, and then Italy as well, all the other countries. Hungary, they even decided to build fences.
Okay, so let's look at this. Obviously, you're feeling the pressure from this chaos, and it seems that the refugees themselves are not being served. I mean, when I hear your story of how they get there, and not just from you, but from the media, so there's 1 million people within a year who have all been traumatized. Leaving your homeland, leaving family members, the chaos that they lived in where they came from is enough to cause problems. So now there's 1 million traumatized people who are in a foreign country that is not only a foreign country, but it's a very, very different culture. And even though they're, Berlin is the largest is the city with the largest Turkish population besides Istanbul, there isn't a lot of in the rest of Germany, there isn't a lot of integration necessarily between the Muslims who are there and who've been there a while, and the normal population. So let's talk a minute about how this sudden onslaught of a different culture is not serving them as well as not serving the Germans. I mean, like, what do you do with 1 million people?
Christian, thank you for addressing this topic. Do we do good service to all these refugees by allowing them to come into our country? And we have to be very meticulous in using certain terms. We use this general term refugees. There are asylum seekers. There are those who fled the war in Syria and in the Middle East or Afghanistan. And then there's a significant number of people who come for economic reasons, who were just literally jumping on the boat by seeing, well, there is this open door policy, so why shouldn't I take advantage?
Where are they coming from?
There's a significant number coming from the Balkans.
The Balkans?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so we have.
And they wouldn't be Muslim, though?
Oh, yes, they are too.
Awesome.
Okay. I can't tell you and give you an exact figure or percentage figure how many Muslims are amongst those coming from the Balkans. But the Balkans, there are very many Muslims too. And well, anyway, so we have many different kinds of migrants coming in, and some those who come for economic reasons. If state authorities find out that they are not asylum seekers, so they have no right to stay, they will be sent home. And this is my great concern. There will be many migrants forced to leave Germany again. They will be sooner or later be deported. And this by itself will create great frustration, and we all know, well, frustration very often leads to hateful thinking and it's not serving anyone.
Hateful thinking on whose part? The part of the Germans or the asylum seekers? Or both?
Well, not the asylum seekers, but those who came for economic reasons. They come. They have high hopes. Of course they do. They think Germany and other countries within the European Union, this is a wonderful place to live. And we also know that there are smugglers who help refugees to come into Germany.
So a business, a black market in human trafficking basically has...
a multi-million-dollar business. And these are not figures that I made up. These are figures you can read in many different newspapers. There are refugees who pay up to $10,000.
$10,000 to come for safe passage to Germany.
Yeah.
And these are not asylum seekers from Syria or Afghanistan.
Christian, it's a tough call. There are probably asylum seekers as well who have the funds to pay for such a trip.
Okay.
But there are certainly migrants who come for economic reasons as well.
Well, we're going to take a little break again and be back talking about the refugee crisis and maybe some more fun stuff about Germany.
Yeah.
Aloha. Hello, my name is Patrick Bratton. I'm host of Global Connections here at ThinkTech Hawaii. We broadcast live every Thursday at 1 p.m. We bring Hawaii to the world and the world to Hawaii, talking about international events and various things of interest to the audience. Please join me. I look forward to talking with you and having you get to meet some of my guests. Aloha.
Hi, I'm Donna Blanchard. I'm the host of Center Stage here on ThinkTech Hawaii. I hope that you will tune in and watch the show. It is inspiring and uplifting and educational also. We talk with artists of all different ilk. We talk with them about what they do, how they do it, and most importantly, most dear to my heart, why they do it. And it never ceases to be fascinating when you get the answer to that question. I hope you'll join us on Center Stage, 2 o'clock Wednesday afternoons. Aloha.
Hi, I'm Jay Fidel. That's Ted Ralston. You know, Ted is the host of Where the Road Leads. It shows every Friday from 4 to 5 p.m. It's about technology. It's about how people collaborating and solve problems with modern technology. It's where the road leads. We all know that. We should all be listening. Join us there, 4 to 5 p.m. every Friday. Now, what about that do you agree with?
All of it.
I knew he'd say that. Aloha. Say aloha.
Aloha.
Good.
Willkommen in Hawaii is my mainland. I'm here today with a special guest from Germany, Ralf Loos. And we've been talking about the difficult situation that Germans who are really proud of their compassion, their humanitarian response, their place in the world as a leader of the free world and free enterprise. Well, maybe not free enterprise, but I mean, of the humanitarian. And suddenly, Germany finds itself in this really difficult position of having to act in ways that are not compassionate in order to protect its citizens. I mean, we saw that through the attacks, the New Year's attacks in Cologne, where there were mob scenes and women were raped and molested, and at some point you have to say, okay, well, this isn't working. When we first started arguing about this, I said, well, this is all this is so un-German. This whole situation is so un-German. There must be something, some plot behind this, that it's Merkel really doesn't want them there, but she's saying that they can all come so that then she knows it's going to end in chaos, and then she can say, oh well, they have to leave now. But you've successfully convinced me that she wasn't thinking it through that way.
I'm sure she didn't. And when you look at other states, and there has been, especially since the New Year's Eve events in Cologne, there has been very strong and very, very clearly voiced criticism from other states vis-a-vis Merkel. And there's, well, Merkel, and I'm very clear on what I'm saying right now, she caused havoc. She did not only cause havoc within Germany, she caused havoc within the European Union. And, well, you only need to look at the facts. It's not an opinion that I'm voicing. Just by looking at the facts, more and more European countries have decided to close their borders.
Right. And politically, things seem to be shifting more and more to the right, protectionist, as fear, the thermometer on fear keeps rising.
Rising, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so that's
people feel highly uncomfortable, and this has been corroborated by some disturbing facts. For example, when the mayor of Cologne, she was interviewed a day or 2 days after these terrible events in Cologne. She firstly did not even talk about refugees. She tried to water it down, and then she also at the beginning denied that she had heard anything about it. However, she was proven to have lied, because some police officers leaked documents that showed that she had been briefed. And even the police chief of Cologne had to resign because he was giving intentionally wrong information to the press. They wanted to be politically correct. However,
meaning what?
Well, by saying these were at the very beginning, they denied the number of incidents. At the very beginning, they talked about a handful of incidents during New Year's Eve, which was totally wrong. Very quickly, the number of claims went up to 150. Today, it's about 550.
550
well, cases,
incidents
yes.
where violence was done.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's a substantial number.
Yeah.
Hard to hide that in the day of Twitter and Facebook.
Well, and now I'm voicing my opinion. I was until now giving you only facts, but my personal opinion is, well, if our politicians, like a mayor or other authorities who hold an important position within the state, like the police chief, do not disclose truth. This sadly reminds me very strongly to the years we had in the 1930s when the Nazis came to power. And there we also had some kind of political correctness. Well, nowadays we again have some kind of political correctness by not referring, when there are incidents, by not referring to migrants or to Muslims and so forth. So the clear, well, I feel manipulated.
You feel manipulated. Is there any glimmer of hope here? Do you see a way out? I don't want to put you on a spot, because if you don't, you don't. Mm-hmm. I'm not asking you to solve this world crisis on my own, but I just want to know from somebody who's intelligent, who's well-read, who has a good heart, what are you going to do with this?
Well, my answer.
What do you want? What is your hope?
Truth.
Is a slippery word.
No, it's not a slippery word. If there are incidents, I want to know about these incidents, and I also want to know by whom they were committed. And this is not
But-
openly and clearly delivered to.
All right, but if knowing who's doing the wrong and in these isn't really going to change the fact that you have 1 million people of various cultures, but significantly different than yours, who are now there's 81 million people in Montana, and it's uncomfortable. So what can if the press is responsible and tells you exactly how bad it isn't going to change the fact that there are 1 million people who need to sleep and eat and go to school and be clothed and housed and all of that. How do you work with that?
I can't give you a solving or an answer that solves everything. However, and it will be a painstaking process to get this issue solved. We will have 3 state elections this year in Germany.
State elections meaning?
Well, we have, as you have in the United States, you have 50 states.
Yeah.
Germany has 16.
16 states.
And 16 states. So,
Okay.
and in fact, you can very much compare the German states to U.S. states. So there will be 3 state elections, and it's already the case that right-wing parties will have a greater turnout.
Okay. So of those 3 states, would those elections be enough to change the ruling party nationally or not?
Nationally, yes and no. Of course, it won't have a direct influence on the national party and on national politics. However, it will have an indirect.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So I will be staying tuned to on this issue. It's a huge one. Thank you for being so honest here, Ralf. And I wanted to, in our last minute, talk a little bit about one of the most inspiring things that happened this summer, which was
Last summer,
was that our visit to your 98-year-old great aunt, Tante Laura, who told us that when I asked her, what is the secret to your longevity, and that's Heike in the middle too. We were at a beautiful cloister which had a garden, and it was the most beautiful day, and there she was. She was just so bright. And so, Tante Laura, what's your secret for being able to live at home still at the age of 98 and have house guests descend on you? And her secret was that she has lots of friends who she sees frequently, and they just stop by your house, and she drinks wine. So that was one of my take homes from this summer, and your beautiful place, the town whose name we shall not say, to keep it.
We keep it as a secret.
We keep it. And this other fabulous place that we went, another 800-year-old remodeled job. This was from your cousin. So there's really good things happening in Germany, sustainable things, reusing and eco-friendly. So it's not all dark.
No, absolutely not. No.
And besides, what can really bad happen in a country where 2 young guys start a whole business revolution by learning how to do-it-yourself crochet and take up knitting? What do you think, Ralf?
Well, knitting, I will look into it maybe in 20 years.
Well, the only reason I know how to knit is because your sister taught me.
Yes. Yeah, now I remember.
Well, thanks for coming in and sharing your thoughts, Ralf.
Christian, it's been a great pleasure. to be
And
here.
thank you for joining us. And Hawaii is my mainland here at Think Tech Hawaii.